If you've been feeling burnt out lately, like your head is just constantly crowded, or you have brain fog, or you feel like you're falling behind, or whatever, I wanted to put this video, a complete collection of all of my psychological breakdowns and just what everything I think is important, okay? This video is just a safe space for you to sit down, breathe, and process things. I think there's enough information across multiple subjects where you can learn something for yourself and become the person you want to be. So sit down, grab some water, and take whatever you need from this and, you know, subscribe. You could have an incredibly productive week. You hit your workouts, you did your work, you cleaned your space, and you didn't waste time. But the exact second your head hits the pillow at night, that quiet voice still creeps in to tell you that you aren't doing enough. You're chasing a finish line that doesn't exist. You look at your life, and on paper, you're doing the right things. You're making progress. But internally, it feels like you're running a race where everyone else started 10 miles ahead of you. And no matter how fast you sprint or how hard you work, the gap only gets wider. It's this constant low humming anxiety that you are somehow wasting your youth, that you are falling behind. But behind who exactly? Well, let's look at what's actually happening when you get that feeling. We live in a world where you can't just live your life in peace anymore. Every time you open your phone, you are blasted with the curated, polished, top 1% moments of thousands of other people's lives. You're scrolling late at night, tired from a long day, and you see some teenage kid in the gym with perfect lighting and talking about his six-figure side hustle. Or you see someone from your old school posting about their new car, their perfect friend group, or their high-paying job. And your brain does something incredibly unfair. It takes your raw, unedited, behind-the-scenes footage, the days that you've felt tired, the days that you've struggled to get out of bed, all those small failures, and it compares them to their highly edited, highly polished highlight reel. You're comparing your average day to their perfect day. And of course, you're going to lose that matchup every single time. And the worst part is how it ruins the things you should actually be proud of. Maybe you finally hit a milestone you've been working toward for months. Maybe you finally got some traction on a project, or you got your room clean and kept it that way for a week. For about 5 minutes, you feel good. You feel like you're finally getting your life together. But then you look online, or you just hear about what someone else is doing. And that achievement instantly turns to ash in your mouth. You tell yourself, yeah, but it's not enough. Look at what they're doing. You're literally robbing yourself of your own victories because you're measuring your progress with someone else's yardstick. So, we've turned our life into a video game where we are constantly checking our stats, our views, our bank accounts, our grades, and we treat them like a scorecard for our worth as a human being, when we've actually completely forgotten how to play the game. And the scariest part is, if you don't break out of this loop, you'll spend your entire life feeling like a failure, even while you're actively winning. Let me give you an example of how absurd this mental trap actually is. So it was a while ago. I was sitting in the dentist chair, and I was just waiting for them to finish up. And the dentist was like, "How old are you?" And I told her I was 16 at the time. And she smiled, and she was like, "Oh, that's cool. My daughter is 17. She's graduating early, and she's going to this private school in Lewiston." And Lewiston is a town that's not far from me. It's about like a half an hour away, She's going to be an ultrasound tech. It's only 2 years of school, and she's going to be making $130,000 a year as soon as she's done. And I sat there staring at the ceiling, with she's got like her fingers and all the tools in my mouth, and my brain instantly went into like that panic mode. And I was like, I don't care about being an ultrasound tech. I've never thought about it once in my life, but suddenly this quiet, toxic voice in my head was like, wait, why am I not doing that? Am I falling behind? Should I become an ultrasound tech? And, as we're leaving, I literally get in the car with my mom, and I asked her if I should. All because some girl I've never met on a career path I don't want was on a timeline that was ahead of me. And we do this consistently. We are so desperate for freedom, for success, to build muscle, to have money, to be a jack of all trades, who does cool things with friends and has nobody telling them what to do. We crave that ultimate autonomy, but because we want it so badly, we let every random story, every digital highlight reel, and every minor setback convince us that we are failing. Think about how this plays out in real time. You put your heart into a project. You write a script, you record, you edit, you try to make the gameplay engaging, you post it, and it hits 100 views. And for a second, you feel that spark and you think, okay, I'm moving, I'm actually doing this. And then your next video drops and it gets 7 views. So that disappointment is like a punch to the chest. You know, it makes you want to close your laptop, throw your hands up and say, why am I even trying? What's the point of working on the next one? That is the exact moment the illusion wins. Because when you let that number dictate your youth, when you get a bad grade on one thing, when you don't progress in the gym like you want, when things just don't feel like they're going your way, that's because you're letting a number dictate your worth. You're letting computer code tell you if your life is worth moving forward or backward. You're letting a teacher tell you what you can and cannot do. But here's the truth. Consistency isn't about never feeling disappointed. It's about looking at that 73 you got on a test and saying, yeah, that sucks, but I know where I'm going. It's about putting the belief that you will succeed at the very front of your brain and refusing to let a temporary dip dictate your self-worth. You see, the pressure we feel is almost entirely fake. Your life right now is safe. You're actively moving forward, but you're letting the speed of other people's timelines make you feel like you're standing still. Those kids on your feed who look like they have the perfect life, the money, the complete freedom, they're showing you a tiny polished slice of their reality. They aren't showing you the hours they spend locked in a room, the crushing pressure they feel to maintain that image, or the fact that many of them have traded their actual youth just to be successful looking on a screen. If you chase their version of freedom, you'll never actually be free, because you'll always be a slave to the next metric, the next milestone, and the next person who is doing a little bit better than you are. So, how do we actually break the trap? Stop focusing on the outputs. Stop obsessing over everyone else's grades. Stop obsessing over how much money everybody else has. Stop obsessing over the metrics of everyone else. You can't control your views, the algorithm, the dollar amounts, the speed of everyone else's timeline. And you put 100% of your focus into the inputs. You need to focus on what you actually give to the day. Because in reality, you only get back what you are willing to put in. To me, true freedom isn't about being lazy. It's not about doing nothing. Freedom is waking up with no alarm, looking at the day ahead and realizing, I don't technically have to do a single thing today, but I have the choice. And then you choose to do the hard things anyway. You wake up and choose to make the food that fits your calories, not because someone is forcing you to diet, but because you want to respect your body. You stretch because you want to feel good. You go to the gym and lift heavy weights because you want to build muscle and look good. You sit down at your desk and lock in on a project or work on your YouTube channel because you want to be successful. You aren't doing any of this because a boss or a parent or some random influencer on TikTok told you to. You're doing it because you're a free human being and you choose to build a life that you actually care about. That is the ultimate cheat code. The second you realize that you are in complete control of your choices, the illusion of feeling behind completely vanishes. How can you be behind when you are the one running the race? When I was writing that felt like a banger of a line. So, if you want to double tap and go back 10 seconds and hear that again, go ahead. When you get a setback, when a video hits 7 views instead of 100, or a sale falls through, or you have a bad workout, it doesn't mean you're failing. It's just a data point. It's just part of the process. You don't quit. You adjust. You work on your delivery. You can make your scripts punchier. You make your videos better. And you keep moving. You do it because you have absolute faith in where you are going. You put that belief at the very front of your brain and you don't doubt it. Stop letting other people's timelines dictate your worth. Ground yourself in your own reality. Make your choices, lock in, and let the rest of the world worry about their scorecard. Billion-dollar companies spent years engineering the exact feeling you get when you unlock your phone. Teams of people, psychologists, data scientists, all sitting in rooms figuring out how to make you come back, how to make you stay longer, how to make leaving feel uncomfortable. The truth is, you're playing a rigged game, but here's the thing. It's still your problem to deal with. I want to be really honest about something before we get into this. I think social media has ruined people, and I don't say that lightly, I really do. There was a version of life not that long ago where if you wanted to hang out with someone, you actually had to go find them. You couldn't text, you couldn't FaceTime, you showed up or you didn't. And because of that, actually being with someone meant something. It was the only way it happened. Now you can be in contact with everyone you know at every second of every day and somehow feel more alone than ever. That's exactly what happens when connection gets so easy it stops feeling like anything. So let's actually talk about what happens when you pick up your phone. Now I'm sure some of you have heard about dopamine and all of that, but just in case you haven't, I'm going to do a quick rundown. Your brain has a reward system and it runs on dopamine. Every time something good happens or even might happen, your brain releases a little bit of it, and it's a feel-good chemical, and so you just get a little happy. The problem is your phone is specifically built to trigger that dopamine system constantly. You get a notification, small hit. You open Instagram and scroll, hit after hit after hit. Someone liked your post, hit. Someone texts you back, hit. You see something funny, hit. You open Snapchat just to even check it, hit. And your brain, which operates on ancient chemistry from when you were a hunter-gatherer, starts to learn that the phone is where the reward is. So every time you're bored, every time you feel uncomfortable, every time there's a quiet moment, every time you're on the toilet, it points you straight back to the phone. This is just basic conditioning. This is called training. You've trained yourself without even realizing it. And the app did everything it could to help that training along. Here's the part that I think people don't want to hear though. Knowing that doesn't fix it. Understanding why you do something and actually stopping are two completely different things. And I know that because I've had to learn that lesson in a pretty personal way this year. When something becomes a habit, a real one, the kind that's woven into your day, knowing why it's bad doesn't make you put it down. What actually changes behavior is changing the environment around the behavior. And I'll get to that. But first I want to talk about what it's actually costing you, because I think a lot of people have not sat and thought about that. Think about how many times a day you pick up your phone without deciding to. You didn't open it to call someone, check directions, or actually do anything. You picked it up and you don't even know why. You open an app you don't care about, and now you spent 20 minutes on Snapchat Spotlight of all things. That adds up fast. Studies keep putting the average screen time somewhere between 4 and 7 hours a day, which 4 to 7 hours a day is a part-time job. Going to the gym, that's reading 15 books a year. That's completely different version of your life happening in the background while you scroll. I'm not trying to make you feel bad. I'm just saying when people tell me they don't have time to work on something, or they don't have time to build something, or they can't figure out why they feel stuck, the phone is almost always part of that answer. Okay, so what do I actually do, Cameron? Well, I'm gonna avoid telling you the lazy advice of delete everything and go live in the woods. But you can't just remove something from your life that's everywhere and expect it to stick. You have to replace it with something or give yourself a real reason. The first thing, and this one is free and takes 2 minutes, turn your phone on grayscale. I know it sounds too simple, but color is part of what makes scrolling feel so good. Instagram is built to be visually stimulating. TikTok is built to be visually stimulating. Anything is supposed to be visually stimulating. When you strip the color out, your brain gets less of the hit, and the whole thing becomes a little less magnetic. You'll notice it almost immediately. Go to your settings right now. Accessibility, display, color filters, grayscale. Boom. Done. The second thing is about your mornings, and this one I feel actually strong about. I put one of my friends onto this method. Most people wake up and their phone is the first thing they touch entirely out of habit because it's right there. And what that does is it starts your day in reaction mode. You're immediately looking at what other people are doing, what other people sent you, what happened while you were sleeping. Your brain hasn't even fully woken up yet, and you're already processing everyone else's world before you've even thought about your own. Just give yourself 20 minutes in the morning where the phone stays down. You don't need an hour or some crazy monk mode morning, just 20 minutes. Get up, drink some water, and let your brain just turn on. That's it. This is one of those things that will feel pointless and stupid until you do it for a week. And then picking up your phone first thing in the morning will start to actually feel wrong. The third thing is probably the most important, and it's the hardest. Start noticing what you're running from when you pick it up. Because most of the time, when you grab your phone without deciding to, there's something underneath that. Boredom is the easy answer, but boredom is usually just discomfort in disguise. You're avoiding something, a thought, a feeling, silence, and the phone is just the fastest exit. I felt this firsthand, and it's just the plain truth. When you're avoiding something, your brain will take any exit it can find. The phone is just the one that's in your pocket. When you catch yourself doing it, just ask, what were you feeling 2 seconds before you picked it up? You don't actually have to do anything with the answer. Just knowing it starts to change the reflex. Here's what I actually believe about all this. The phone and the apps are just tools, but they were designed at an industrial scale specifically to compete for your attention, and they are very good at winning. Our self-control is simply not built for that kind of competition. It never had to be before, so you can beat yourself up about it, or you can just accept that the game is tilted and start playing smarter. Small things, grayscale, 20 minutes in the morning, noticing the reflex. None of it is a massive dramatic transformation. It's just making the exit a little less automatic. Because here's what I keep coming back to. The stuff you actually want, building something, getting better at something, feeling like your time means something at the end of the day, none of that lives in the scroll. It never did. The scroll gives you a cheap substitute for feeling alive. And the longer you use a substitute, the more you forget what the real thing feels like. You already know what the real thing feels like. You've had moments where you locked into something and time disappeared, and you looked up and you felt like you actually accomplished something. That's what's on the other side of putting the phone down. That's what gives you more of that genuine feeling instead of chasing productive mornings or some optimized life. And that's worth something. Hello, gentlemen. I am Instacam, and I am here to tell you that we have made another $1 billion today. I said another $1 billion today. Oh, you don't care? Well, there's something else. People are waking up, okay? People think they can stop using our app. Gentlemen, people are more addicted to their phones nowadays than they are eating food. We have successfully created a platform to make us billions and billions of dollars, and people don't even know they're addicted. But this one guy, here, check out this video. This nincompoop is trying to go against us. And how are we going to take him down? Well, leave that to me. Finally home. I really hope that video I made about social media does well. That one I put a lot of effort into. Well, yeah, I guess we'll see. You're laying in your bed, staring up at the ceiling, replaying that thing you said to someone 3 days ago. To someone you barely know. Not a close friend. Not someone who matters to your actual life. Just some person. And you're still thinking about it. That's not you being anxious or you being sensitive. It's actually something deeper than that. At some point, and this happens to everyone, you stopped living your life and started to watch your life. Like there's a camera on you, and you're always halfway in the moment and halfway thinking about how you look in it. You're at a party, and instead of being there, you're thinking, am I being weird right now? Am I talking too much? Did that joke even land? Why did I say that? And the crazy part is that nobody is even watching you like that. They're all doing the same thing. Everyone at that party is in their own head, worrying about their own thing. But your brain doesn't care. Your brain just keeps running the same thing over and over and over again. So where does this actually come from? Well, think about it. Think about being 6 years old. The whole world is one big evaluation. School is a grade, sports is a ranking, social media is a number. Everything you do gets some kind of score and people will see it. You can post something on Instagram and you can watch in real time how many people cared. TikTok tells you your video sucked. Snapchat shows you who didn't open your message yet. We've built our entire social lives around systems that constantly tell us where we rank. And then we're surprised that we can't stop thinking about what people think of us. So don't think it's just some personal flaw. It is a matter of the environment we grow up in. Your brain learned very early that other people's perception of you is very important because in some ways it did. But here's where it becomes a problem. That version of you that was scared of being judged at school, that made sense. You were in a small environment, same people every day. Your reputation actually followed you, but you're not in school anymore. Or if you are, probably not for very long. And yet the fear stayed. The habit of monitoring yourself, editing yourself, replaying yourself, it comes with you wherever you go. You could be at work, you could be meeting new people, you could be on a first date, and that same voice is still running in the background. Did I say the right thing? Do they like me? What do they think? And I'll be honest, I know what this feels like. I am someone who is pretty confident, pretty loud. I like talking, I like making people laugh, and I still catch myself doing this. You say something, and the second it leaves your mouth, you're already judging it before the other person even has a chance to react. It's not even an insecurity thing. It's a bad habit. A bad habit that doesn't care how confident you are. So, what is actually going on in your brain when this happens? There is this idea in psychology, and I'm not going to go too deep into the science stuff of it because I don't really care. But basically, your brain has this thing where it overestimates how much other people notice you. Like you spill a drink and you think everyone saw that. Oh, I'm so embarrassed. I can't believe I did that. In reality, 3 people saw it and they forgot in 40 seconds because they are already thinking about something else, whatever they spilled earlier, however they look, whatever they're doing. Your brain treats your embarrassing moments like they're on the front page. Everybody cares. But to everyone else, it's like those Amber Alerts you swipe away and don't care about. All that energy, all that mental space you're using to replay the conversations and edit yourself and worry about how you come across, you're spending it on people who are not thinking about you. And meanwhile, the things you actually want to do, the thing you want to start, the person you want to talk to, the version of yourself you keep saying you're going to become, those are all there waiting. While you're busy worrying about some comment you made to someone you'll probably never see again. I mean, think about it. That's how you know it's the real cost. You only have so much attention. And if you're spending 50% of it doubling up on conversations so you can hear what the other person is saying while also thinking about if your hair looks good, this is what I think actually helps. And this isn't just some 5 steps because I think that's kind of lazy. I think the first thing is just start noticing when it happens. Don't stop it. Just see. Because when you pause and think, okay, I'm doing it right now, I'm replaying this, it stops mattering. You realize that it doesn't matter and you can't fix something you don't see. The second thing is start separating what's real from what your brain is inventing. Someone didn't text you back fast enough. Your brain says, Oh, they must hate us. Ah, we stink. The reality is, they're just doing something, or their phone's in another room, or they're just bad at texting. You did not do anything wrong. Most of the stories your brain tells you about what other people think, it made them up. It filled in the blanks with the worst version. The third thing I'd like to mention, and this is probably the longest, so, buckle up, is caring less. And not in a fake way, not in I don't care what anyone thinks way, because honestly, if someone says that, they're lying. But genuinely caring less about the opinion of people who aren't in your corner, the people at school who you don't really know, the strangers online, the person you talk to for 5 minutes. Their read on you is surface level. It's based on one moment. It says nothing about who you actually are. The people who do know you, your real friends, the people who have actually seen you, their opinion is one that should carry weight. And most of the time, those people think you're fine. And here's what I want to leave you with. That voice in your head that's always watching you, always grading you, always replaying you, it's not there because there's something wrong with you. It's there because you care. You care about how you show up. You care about what people experience when they're around you. And that's not a bad thing. The problem is when it goes from caring to obsessing, from awareness to being paralyzed. You cannot control what someone thinks of you after you leave the room. You can't. No matter how perfectly you say the thing or how carefully you act, people are going to think whatever they want to think. And most of the time, they're not even thinking about you. What you can control is who you actually are. Be the person you want to be around. Say the real thing. Laugh when something's funny. Let it be awkward sometimes. And then let it go. That replay never helped you. It only slowed you down. No, this is not about cleanliness. I need you to hear that first because the second someone says, clean your room, your brain goes, okay, mom, and you just tune it out. And that's not what this is. This is about what a messy room is actually doing to your head, what it tells your brain about who you are right now, whether you realize it or not. Because there's something happening in that environment that goes way deeper than dishes in the sink and clothes on the floor. And I think once you actually understand it, and not just hear it, but actually understand it, you'll want to do something. So here's what's going on. Your brain is constantly reading your environment. Like constantly. Not in a dramatic way, just quietly in the background, all day. It's taking information about where you are and using it to figure out what mode to be in. And a chaotic environment sends a very specific signal that says, things here are out of control. Nobody's on top of it. This is not a place where serious things happen. That's not me being dramatic. That's genuinely the message your brain receives. When you wake up every morning in a room with a week's worth of clothes on the floor, random stuff on every surface, trash you keep meaning to take out, dishes that you've been ignoring, your brain scans all of that before you've even had a single thought, and it decides, we're not in good shape today. And then you wonder why it's hard to start anything. Think about it like this. You ever walk into a space that was just like clean and organized, a hotel room maybe, someone else's house, and you notice how you feel different in that space? Not like, whoa, this is amazing, just kind of like, oh, okay, I can think in here. There's room to breathe. That feeling is real. That's not interior design being fancy. It's your nervous system settling down because the environment around you is telling you things are fine, things are handled, you can focus. Now, compare that to how you feel sitting in a room when it's a wreck. Same person, same brain, completely different mental state just because of what's around you. And so, here's the part that I actually want to talk about. Your room isn't a reflection of where you're at. It starts to become the reason you stay there. Because here's what happens. Your room gets messy. Fine. Life gets busy. Whatever. But then it stays messy. And the longer it stays that way, the more your brain starts to accept it as normal, as just how things are. And then acceptance bleeds into everything else. Not dramatically and not overnight, but slowly and gradually. And I really mean gradually. Like, you're not going to notice this happening. But the standard you hold yourself to in every other area of life will start to loosen a little. You skip the gym once, fine. You eat bad for a couple days, it's fine. You stop doing the small things that keep your routine together, none of it feels connected. But it is. It all comes from the same place. When your environment says you're not on top of things, it becomes easier to act like someone who isn't on top of things. It's just how humans respond to their surroundings. I'll tell you something I noticed about myself. There was a recent time, maybe a couple weeks ago, where I just kind of felt off. And like, not dramatically, just off. Nothing was just clicking in the way I wanted it to. I couldn't keep myself in the gym. I couldn't eat right. I couldn't hang out with my friends. You wanna know what the problem was? My room was always a mess. Like, always. And I'm not saying that the mess caused all this, but because the mess was part of the same pattern, everything was a little neglected. Everything was a little behind. And the room was just the most visible version of that. And every time things started coming back together, gym back on, better sleep, actually being productive, the room got cleaned first. Not always intentionally, just as a part of the shift. The room is like a scoreboard. You look at it and you know exactly where you're at right now. So what do you actually do? And I'll say the same thing I always say. I'm not going to give you an extreme system. I always think that's silly. Telling someone whose room is destroyed to deep clean everything and organize by color is asking them to fail. Start with one thing. Just one. Not everything. One. Make your bed. That's it. That's the whole first step. I know, it sounds like nothing, but here's why it matters. Making your bed is the first decision you make in your day where you did something intentional. You woke up and you chose to do something. It takes 2 minutes, and your brain registers it. There's a small signal you send yourself that says, I'm the kind of person who does things. Not in like a cheesy affirmation way, just a tiny bit of evidence. And the evidence, stacks up. The second thing is a 10-minute sweep or vacuum. Not a clean, but like a sweep. There's a difference. A clean is what you do when guests are coming and your mom is like, please clean your room, and then, nobody comes in your room. But a sweep is just walk around your room, put things where they belong, close off the floor, clear the surfaces, take the trash out. 10 minutes, maybe less. The goal isn't perfect, the goal is functional. You want to be able to walk into your room and not immediately feel like you're losing, a little overwhelmed and bogged down. Because that feeling, that like low-level sense of being behind just from looking at your own space, that's costing you something every single day. And it's so quiet, you've probably stopped noticing it. Kind of like the hum in the background of all my videos. The third thing is the one thing that actually keeps it going. Pick one thing in your room that you actually like. A lamp, a poster, your desk, anything. And keep that one thing clean and in its place, always. This sounds really random, but there's a reason it works. When you have one part of your space that's constantly good, consistently cared for, it becomes an anchor. Your brain has something to hold on to that says, this room is actually okay. And that anchor makes it way easier to let the rest follow. Because the problem with a messy room isn't that it's messy. It's that after a while, it kind of all blurs together into one big feeling of wrong. You can't see where to start. It's just overwhelming. One good corner gives you a foothold, something to maintain instead of something to fix. Here's what I want you to take from this. Your environment is not separate from who you're trying to become. It's part of it. The person you're working towards, the more focused version, the one with better habits, the one who actually follows through, that person lives in a certain kind of space. Not a perfect space, not a magazine space, but just a space that reflects that someone in control lives there. And you can build towards that person in a lot of ways. Gym, sleep, what you put in your body, how you spend your time. But the room is the easiest one, the most immediate one. The one thing you can change in 10 minutes and actually feel a difference right now. Not next week, not once you're motivated, today. There's this thing that I believe that I keep coming back to. You get what you give in pretty much every single area of life. If you give your space and care, it gives back a little more calm, a little more focus. That feeling that says things are going in the right direction. And that feeling, even a small version of it, is enough to take the next step. Start there. Yes. finally settling into my new apartment. It's a little messy. Kind of getting stressed out. Kind of getting really stressed out. I don't know if I'm gonna. You get home from work and you think, okay, I deserve a little scroll. And what? So you get out of work at 5. Your little scroll turned into a bigger scroll, and you snap out of it 5 hours later. At 10 p.m., you finally do all your stuff. You get it all done. You eat your food, whatever. And then it's 2 a.m. And then you're back to scrolling. And suddenly you see this guy on your screen. He's got this perfect morning routine. He's jacked. He reads books all the time. He's smart. He's funny. He plays golf. Plays football. He does whatever. He's a jack of all trades. He's literally good at everything. And you're just sitting in the dark, watching him through a 5-inch screen, dreaming about a life that could be yours. And I've done this before. This is all I would do for so long. And instead of like having you feel motivated like it should, it just kind of hurts. You get this upsetting feeling of jealousy. I mean, you look at your own room, you look at your own day, and you're like, man, I am so far behind. I need to lock it in right now. And it makes you just feel frozen. Like everyone else is moving at 100 miles per hour and you're just completely still. But here's the reality of it. Half of the stuff you look at on your phone late at night isn't even that perfect guy. Most of it's just dead space, total brain rot. You spend hours consuming these absolute nothing burgers of tung sahur that you don't even care about. Stuff you won't remember in 5 minutes after you swipe away. But you keep scrolling anyway. Why? Because watching someone else live or just drowning your brain in useless noise is so much easier than actually existing in your own life. You see, your own life is happening right now, as we speak. It's just paused. We're on the main menu while you sit there and watch everyone else play the game. And we do it because staying on the main menu doesn't take any effort. Actually doing things, that requires input. Life is entirely what you make out of it, and you only get back what you put in. But putting it in is hard. Pause. And it drives me crazy because I look around and I see so many kids my age who are completely missing this basic sense of awareness. You see them wearing expensive clothes, holding nice backpacks, and then they'll complain about the most minor thing, meaningless things. They have zero self-awareness. They can't step into someone else's shoes for even a second to realize not everyone has this. Not everyone gets to experience this lifestyle. They all take it for granted because they're completely numb. They're so deep being an audience member of the world that they don't even realize they're throwing away their own youth. But look, I get why it happens. I'm not judging anyone because I feel that exact same way. I mean, taking a real action in the real world is hard. I mean, it makes you nervous. Alright, like you want to text your friends to hang out or go hit some golf balls or go shoot some hoops or whatever. But then that voice creeps into your head and it's like, what if we don't have a good time? What if it sucks? What if not enough people show up? What if it's awkward? Or say you just want to go to the gym, but your friend can't make it today and you have to go by yourself. And suddenly you start thinking about how busy it's going to be. There's going to be too many people there. You've never felt this anxious feeling when you went with a partner. But the second you walk through the doors alone, the friction wins. So you stay at home. You open the app and you start scrolling. Alright, so we're sitting on the main menu. How do we actually press start? Well, first you have to realize that jack of all trades guy that you see on your Instagram feed, his life is edited. You're comparing your raw, unfiltered, daily life to a polished 2-minute highlight reel. Trying to copy his perfect 15-step morning routine straight out of the gate is the trap. You don't need a flawless aesthetic to start leaving. You just need to take one real, unedited action. Because the truth is, we want the identity of being successful, being jacked, or being good looking, being cool, but we hate the effort it takes to get there. Like we said, life is an output game. You put in what you get. If you have all your energy into just watching other people build things, your output is 0. You have to be willing to do the boring, messy, lame work when nobody's watching and no cameras are rolling. Think about the gym anxiety. You don't want to go because it's busy or because you're alone, but look around next time you walk through those doors. Half the people in there are staring at their own screens between sets. They aren't even judging you. They are stuck in their own heads, fighting their own friction. The second you realize that nobody's actually watching you, a massive weight lifts off your shoulders. Not literally. You're allowed to just show up, do your workout, and build your own momentum. It's the exact same thing with your friends. We get so nervous that a hangout might be awkward or people won't show up, so we just don't text the group chat. But guess what? The fellas are probably just sitting in their rooms right now, staring at their phones, feeling lonely and waiting for someone else to send a message. So stop waiting for the perfect moment or the perfect plan. Just drop the performance. Just send your friends a text. Get people together, even if it is just for food or golf, basketball, even a pool party. When you stop spectating your life, letting things happen to you, your entire perspective shifts. You stop looking at what everyone else has on social media, and you start looking at your own life with actual awareness. You realize how blessed you actually are to have the health, the time, and the opportunity to do cool things. You stop taking your youth for granted. You stop complaining about minor things because you're too busy focusing on your own path. So this is my challenge to you for the rest of the day. The second this video ends, don't let the algorithm automatically slide you into another one, unless it's mine. Don't close YouTube just to open TikTok and scroll through more nothing burgers. Close the app, put the phone face down on your desk, and go do one real thing that requires output. Clean a corner of your room. Like I said in my last video, do 20 push-ups, text a friend. Take your life off pause and stop spectating your own life and go play the game. Oh my gosh, it drives me crazy. What happened here? Usually, we like to wait until I'm in my bedroom to blow it up. I think you guys did it a little too early. Is this a metaphor? Is this for the spectating thing? I don't get it. This must be niche. Okay. Guess I'll just sit and watch TV then. It's really strange that they did it so early. Maybe I'll be safe tonight. No. Most people think that ruining your life is a cinematic event. They think it looks like a massive crash or a sudden rock bottom or a catastrophic mistake that changes everything overnight. Like the Terry and Arnold situation if you follow football. But it's usually not. If it were that obvious, you'd see it coming. You'd step out of the way. The reality is that ruining your life is completely silent. It's a slow, tiny leak. It happens when you're completely alone in a room with the door locked, making tiny, comfortable compromises that feel totally justified in the moment. It's a process of slow decay where you slowly lower your standards inch by inch until one day you look in the mirror and you don't even recognize the person looking back at you. You don't notice it happening because each individual step down feels like a break you actually deserve. Think about how you talk to yourself when you're on the edge of falling off. It always starts with a narrative. Your brain is incredibly smart, which means it is incredibly good at lying to you to protect your comfort. It doesn't say, hey, let's completely destroy our routine today and throw away all our goals. It more whispers something safer. It says, man, it's been a crazy week. I just need a break. I deserve this. And look, taking a rest is normal. I'm a big rest day guy. I think people who don't take rest days are trying to fail. But there's a massive difference between a strategic break to recharge and a desperate retreat into comfort because doing the work got too hard. When you start treating every minor inconvenience or bit of fatigue as a valid excuse to quit, you're messing with your own potential. And the second you open that door to negotiation, you already lost. Personally, I do this exact negotiation at the gym all the time. So, say this is you. You're halfway through a solid workout. You've been working for like an hour. And then it's time to hit some chest. But you're tired. Your triceps are feeling a little sore. Your shoulders are a bit sore from earlier in the week. And suddenly that voice steps in and it gives you an out. It says, you know what? It's fine. We can just skip the bench today. I'll do 100 push-ups when I get home tonight. Or, you need to train abs, but you don't want to stand by the mats at a busy gym. So you tell yourself, I'll do some sit-ups when I get home, right in my room. But let's be entirely honest with ourselves. You never do those push-ups. You never do those sit-ups. The moment you walk through your front door, drop your bag, and sit on the bed, the workout is done. You never intended to do them in the first place. Your brain doesn't create that at-home plan to actually get the work done. It created the plan to trick your conscience. You told yourself you'd do it later just so you could give yourself permission to forget about it without feeling the immediate guilt of quitting. It's a psychological escape hatch. You get the comfort of quitting right now, paired with the fake satisfaction of pretending you're still going to do it later. It is a loop of constant self-deception. Now, maybe you're the type of person who doesn't let one bad day completely derail your entire week. Maybe you skip the chest press, feel bad about it, but still show up the next day. You think you're safe because you didn't let it cascade into a total collapse. But the danger isn't that your whole life falls apart tomorrow. The danger is you just taught your brain that your standard is flexible. You prove to yourself that when friction gets too high, you will alter the contract. You will accept a lesser version of your plan. Once your mind realizes it can successfully negotiate you down from a hard gym session, it will start using that exact same strategy on everything else. It will use it on your career, your relationships, your creative projects, and your values. You don't destroy your life in a single day, but you slowly poison the discipline that keeps your life together. But those micro lies are just the first layer. The real trap, the one that keeps most people stuck in a flat line for years without even realizing it, is the illusion of progress. There is a specific kind of self-destruction that doesn't look like laziness at all. From the outside, it looks like hustle. It looks like motivation. It's the trap of fake productivity. And it is running rampant right now. We live in an era where you can spend 3 hours watching self-improvement videos, listening to podcasts about optimization, and scrolling through aesthetic routines, and your brain will genuinely convince you that you've done something valuable. You mistake the consumption of information for the execution of a task. You feel like you're fixing your life just because you're reading the user manual, but your actual reality hasn't moved a single inch. Look at how this plays out when it's time to actually get to work. Instead of just doing the thing, we build a massive, complex architecture around it. You decide you need to lock in. So what's the first step? You don't start the project. You open a new Notion template. You start color coding a Google Calendar. You download a new to-do list app and spend an hour setting up tags, priorities, and deadlines. You organize your desk. You change your lighting. You curate the perfect lo-fi playlist. And you map out the next 6 weeks of your life in crazy detail. You spend 2 hours planning how you're going to execute a 30-minute task. You're playing a simulation of hard work because pretending to do the thing feels safe. When you actually do the thing, introduces the risk of failure and discomfort. We do this because our brains are incredibly easy to trick with a psychological bait and switch. When you sit down and design a massive, perfect plan, your brain releases a hit of dopamine. It gives you the reward before you've earned it. In that moment, looking at your beautifully organized schedule, you feel the satisfaction of a person who has already achieved the goal. The to-do list becomes a shield. You use it to protect yourself from the raw friction of execution. It's way easier to write down, record YouTube video, or write script outline in a clean font than it is to sit in front of a microphone and face the silence. Over-organizing is just a sophisticated, high IQ form of procrastination. It lets you avoid the work while completely bypassing the guilt of being lazy. Because you can point to your screen and say, look at how much I've planned today. But this is the truth that we all need to admit to ourselves. Doing the actual thing takes less time, takes less energy, and is infinitely easier than the hours you spend avoiding it. Think about how much mental real estate you burn up just thinking about a hard task. You carry it around with you all day, like a weight in the back of your head. You stress about it while you scroll on your phone. You think about it while you're eating, and you exhaust yourself with the sheer anxiety of preparation. If you just opened your laptop and started typing, or if you just put your shoes on and walk out the door, the friction would vanish in 5 minutes. The execution is simple. It's the planning, the hesitating, and the constant mental negotiations that are actually draining your life. Stop trying to build a perfect system. A flawless plan executed tomorrow is entirely worthless compared to a messy, imperfect action taken right now. But the over-planning and the micro lies eventually manifest into something much heavier. They manifest into physical isolation. When you are quietly off track, you start retreating from reality. You stop answering text. You stop hanging out with your friends, and you stop showing up at the gym. Instead, you just stay home. You lock yourself upstairs in your room, hiding from the world. You convince yourself you just need space or that you're just chilling out, but you're actually just running away from the friction of your life. Even your family, the people living right down the hall, under the same roof, become distant because you've completely shut yourself out behind a closed door. You are physically present in the house, but mentally, you are completely out of reach, wrapped in a loop of avoidance. And what do you do when you're in your room? You tell yourself you're going to play video games and just decompress. Then you fire up the game, look at the menu screen, and something terrifying happens. It isn't even fun. Your dopamine receptors are so completely fried from constant, non-stop hyperstimulation that normal gaming doesn't even move the needle anymore. You sit there with the controller in your hand, bored out of your mind, staring at a screen, feeling completely numb. You don't even have the focus or energy to play a game you used to love. So you pivot to something that requires no effort. You pull out your phone, drop your head, and start scrolling on TikTok for hours. If you guys can't tell, I have something against TikTok and doom scrolling. I think I've mentioned it in every single one of my videos. Anyway, I don't know. You just let the app feed your brain so much cheap stimulation while your real life flatlines. This is where the ultimate trap settles in. You start fantasizing while your thumb is flicking through videos. You're building a massive alternate reality in your head. You fantasize about the person you want to become, the money you want to make, the physique you want to build, and the creative projects you want to launch. You play this perfect movie of your ideal future over and over and over again in your mind. And because those thoughts are so vivid, your brain mistakes that fantasy for an actual achievement. You get a temporary rush of satisfaction just thinking about who you could be, but you aren't doing a single solitary thing to actually build it. You're just using those fantasies as an emotional painkiller to distract yourself from the cold reality that you're currently sitting in a dark room doing nothing. But eventually, the screen turns off, you plug your phone in, you turn off the lights, and you lay down in your bed. And this is the exact moment where everything catches up to you. Believe me, this happened to me recently. So, the middle of the night is the only time left in modern life where your brain is forced to be completely and utterly alone. There are no apps open, no notifications, no videos playing in the background, and no distractions. It is just you and your thoughts in the pitch black. And in that heavy, brutal silence, the fake reality that you've been protecting all day completely shatters. You look up at the ceiling and you feel that sick, heavy, sinking feeling in your chest. The noise is gone, the coping mechanisms are turned off, and you are forced to look at your routine completely raw. You hit that exact moment of clarity where you think, what the hell am I doing? That question is the most uncomfortable, painful realization of your entire week, but is also the most important thing that can happen to you. That sinking feeling is your brain finally snapping out of the coma. It is that sudden wake-up call reminding you that nobody is coming to save you. Nobody's going to hand you that fantasized life. And if you keep living like this for the next year, you are actively choosing to end up completely average. When you hit that midnight realization, you have two choices. You can wake up tomorrow, make another micro excuse about being tired, and slide right back into the safe, comfortable loop of decay. Or you can decide right there in the dark that you are completely done playing games. You decide to lock in. You decide to stop negotiating, stop planning, and start executing. You don't notice when you're ruining your life, but tonight is the exact night that you choose to start building it. We have 500 followers on Instagram. We're in 3 different active Discord servers, and we can literally text anyone on Earth in 2 seconds. Yet, if your main 2 or 3 friends happen to be busy on a Friday night and you wanted to go hit the gym, play a round of golf, or just grab something to eat, you look down at your phone and you realize you actually don't have anyone to call. It's a weird kind of silence. You sit in your room and you open up social media to escape it, but it backfires. You check Snapchat maps or look at Instagram stories and you see people out hanging out, doing cool things, and suddenly that silence gets even heavier. You start digging this mental hole, bogging yourself down, thinking, man, do I even have friends? And what hurts the most is the realization that if you aren't the one constantly sending the text, making the plans, and pulling people together, nothing happens if you don't initiate. The weekend passes by in total isolation. We are living in the most digitally connected era in human history, but physically, we are facing an absolute friendship deficit. We know hundreds of faces, but we don't actually know anyone. So, why does making real friends feel so impossible right now? It's not because people dislike you, and it's not because you're unlikable. It's because the modern world has built a perfect psychological trap that makes isolation feel safer than connection. Let's get into what's really happening here. Think about the last time you were sitting next to someone at school, or at your job, or resting on a bench between sets at the gym. You look over, they're into the same things you are. Maybe they're wearing a brand you like, or you know they play the same video games or sports. You think about striking up a normal conversation. You want to be cool. You want to be confident. You want to just say something. But right before the words leave your mouth, your brain hits the brakes. What if it's weird? What if they think I'm a freak for randomly talking to them? What if I look crazy? So what do? You reach into your pocket, pull out your phone, and you start scrolling. We think we're just checking our notifications, but psychologically, we're doing something much deeper. We're choosing the safe off switch. Think about it. Talking to a real human being is hard work. I mean, it demands cognitive effort. When you talk to someone, you have to think, you have to actively listen, you have to process their expressions, understand their tone, and risk being rejected or misread. It requires you to be fully on. But looking at your phone, it requires none of that. Your phone screen demands zero processing power. It doesn't ask you to listen, it doesn't ask you to understand, and it will never judge you. It literally allows you to just turn your brain completely off. It gives you an immediate comfort of looking occupied, so you don't have to look like a loner standing in a room. But here's the trap. Every single time we choose the safety of the screen over the friction of a real interaction, we are training our social muscles to atrophy. We are teaching ourselves to fear 5 seconds of potential awkwardness so much that we voluntarily choose permanent isolation instead. We've swapped the effort of building a real brotherhood for the cheap convenience of a digital ghost town. And I know it just sounds like buzzword, but what I'm getting at is we have chosen to be on our phones more than we have chosen to speak to people. We have just developed an extreme, almost irrational phobia of modern social rejection. Back in the day, if you wanted to talk to someone, you had to just walk up and deal with whatever happened. Awkwardness was just a normal part of being a human. But today, because we spend so much time behind curated profiles where everything is clean, edited, and controlled, any real-world interaction feels high risk. We treat a 5-second awkward silence like it's life or death scenario. If you say, "Hey, what's up?" to someone at the gym, and they just nod and look away, your brain treats that minor moment like a massive emotional defeat. You tell yourself, "See, I knew I shouldn't have said that. I'm just going to stay in my lane." But the truth is, everyone around you is stuck in that exact same trap. The guy sitting next to you at work or school is just as lonely, just as isolated, and just as deeply buried in his phone as you are. He's staring at his screen for the same exact reason. He's terrified of looking weird, just like you. We are a generation of lonely people, staring at screens, waiting for the other person to be brave first. We choose the safety of isolation because rejection feels like it bogs us down. But the reality is, the isolation is what's actually pulling us under. We're trading a momentary flub for a chronic underlying sense of emptiness. And until we realize that a little bit of awkwardness won't kill us, we're gonna stay stuck on our own little digital islands. So I want you to become the person that goes up to them. And let's say you get past that initial barrier. You start talking to people. You find some guys you vibe with. And this is where the second, much bigger wall is the bro versus deep balance. It is incredibly easy to find surface friends today. You know what I mean? The guys you dap up in the hallway, the guys you can text about common things, the guys you can talk to about football games or play a couple games of Fortnite or whatever. On the surface, it looks like a friendship, but it's hollow. Because the second the conversation starts getting real, the second you try to talk about something heavy, something honest, or how you're actually doing, the vibe is completely different. A lot of guys are absolutely terrified of breaking past that layer. They're terrified of being vulnerable. We live in a culture where guys are conditioned to keep their guards all the way up 24/7. They think that expressing any real emotion or admitting that things aren't perfect makes them look weak. So what happens? If you try to bring up something real, they get insecure. They worry they're going to be judged, and instead of meeting you with maturity, they protect themselves with a defense mechanism. They'll throw out an annoying, lazy excuse like, "Bro, that's so gay." That'll completely deflect it with a joke. Or worse, they'll just sit there and freeze. They shut down entirely and give you a cold one-word response and let the conversation die. It is so incredibly frustrating because you realize you're surrounded by people, but you can't actually talk to any of them, and you're forced to keep this mask on. But here's the thing. Once you do finally break through that barrier, once you find a couple of guys that you can talk honestly with, without the sugarcoating, without the performance, it feels amazing. Like it's like a massive weight is lifted off your chest, and you realize, okay, I'm not crazy. I'm not the only one dealing with this. But man, getting to that point feels like dragging yourself through the mud, because you have to wade through 100 surface level bros just to find one actual brother. I know that's kind of sound cringy, but I hope that helps you understand that you have to have deeper friendships. Okay, I know. How do we actually fix this? How do you escape the friendship deficit and build something real without looking desperate or weird? You have to drop the online performance, and you have to change how you invite people into the real world. Most guys, when they try to hang out with someone new, they make the mistake of being incredibly vague. They say something like, "Hey man, we should kick it sometime," or "Hey bro, we gotta do something soon." Don't ever say that, okay? When you leave an invite completely open-ended, you're putting all the cognitive work on the other person. They have to guess what you mean. They have to figure out a day, and they have to risk making the first official move. Because it requires effort, they will almost always just nod and say, "Yeah, bro, I'm down." And then nothing ever happens. If you want to build a real-world connection, your invite has to be completely zero friction. It has to be specific, and it has to be dialed in. Instead of saying, like, "We should do something," you look at them and say, "Hey, bro, I'm hitting the driving range on Tuesday at 2. You should pull up." Or, "Hey, I'm going to grab food at this spot right after school on Thursday. You want to come with?" See the difference? You aren't asking them to help you create a plan. The plan already exists. You're doing what you're going to do anyway, and you're simply unlocking the door for them to step into. They don't have to assume, they don't have to guess, and they don't have to overthink. It's a simple yes or no. And if they say no, if they say they're busy, don't even worry about it, and don't let it bog you down, because now you've already established a baseline. You've already broken the ice. You can work around it. Say, "All good. I mean, if you can't do Tuesday, you want to do Wednesday?" And if they're down, then you've got a real plan locked in. If they give continuous excuses, then you know exactly where they stand, and you move on to someone else. No harm, no foul. You didn't lose anything by trying to become friends with this person. Look, it sucks that we live in a time where if you don't constantly initiate, make the plans, and pull people together, you end up sitting in isolation. It feels unfair that the weight of the friendship always seems to fall on your shoulders, but you can either sit there in your room scrolling through Snap Map or feeling upset that the phone isn't ringing, or you can accept the reality of our generation and decide to become the leader. Be the guy who is brave enough to put the phone down for 5 seconds. Be the guy who tolerates a moment of awkwardness to build a real connection. And be specific with your execution. Stop waiting for someone to call you on a Friday night. Build the plan, make the invite, and pull your circle together. Because the guys worth having around are waiting for someone to take the lead. And you might as well be the one to do it. Just some thoughts for today. Talk to you guys later. It's 2 o'clock on a random afternoon in July, and you're sitting on the edge of your bed, staring down at your phone. You've been awake for hours, but you haven't actually done anything. You spent the first 2 hours just scrolling through your feed, completely paralyzed, unable to get up and take a shower or stretch, and your brain is telling you, well, what else am I supposed to do? I have the day off. It's summer. And then just like that, that version of you from January, the guy who is going to lock in or stay consistent and completely change his life, he quietly dies. This is the exact millisecond that trap snaps shut. You see, we have built this massive cultural lie around the summer paths. We look at our feeds and see everyone romanticizing absolute laziness. It's a collective unspoken agreement to just let our brains rot until summer. We tell ourselves we're in total control. We're just taking a quick, justifiable break because it's hot outside. But the scariest thing about a slip is how quiet it is. You don't wake up one morning and consciously decide to ruin your life. It's a slow, incremental decay. You skip one gym session because your meal timing got thrown off by waking up late. You play video games for a few hours because you tell yourself there's nothing better to do. You tell yourself, I've only been slacking for a couple weeks, but your brain completely hides the fact that a couple weeks has suddenly turned into 3 months, and by the time you finally look up, you're sitting at the absolute bottom of a hole you dug yourself, wondering how you got there. And the wildest part is, everyone around you is running the exact same script, but they're miserable while doing it. Look at the kids at school or the guys you see every day. They show up wearing nice clothes, carrying like expensive backpacks, living one of the easiest, most comfortable lives in human history. And all they do is complain. Seriously, they sit next to you and whine because their mom didn't make the exact food they wanted for dinner, or because a teacher gave them a bad grade on the assignment they made completely with AI. They get exactly what they give. You see, in the summer, that dynamic just morphs into a different kind of rot. You see guys constantly complaining about how bored they are, but the exact second you text them to see if they want to hang out or want to do something real, they don't even respond. And they'll complain that they aren't gaining enough muscle or that they hate their progress, but they haven't even tracked a single calorie or had a disciplined meal all summer. We've become a generation that expects output while giving absolutely zero input. We want the aesthetic of being locked in, but the second the digital noise stops and we're left alone with our thoughts in an empty room, we panic. We run right back to the screen because sitting there by yourself, knowing you're completely wasting your time, is a horrible feeling. This is where the summer comes in. You see, while everyone else has quietly decided to check out, this is the exact moment that the gap is created. You don't need a crazy, extreme monk mode grind set to win right now. In fact, trying to force yourself into some flawless, like hyper-restrictive lifestyle, like waking up at 4 in the morning and going to the gym and dunking your face in 3 ice baths, is exactly how you burn yourself out and send yourself right back to the bottom. You win summer simply by refusing to participate in the collective rot. The dangerous part about falling off during the summer isn't that you make some big dramatic decision to stop trying. It's more quiet than that. It's just the small, normal voice in your head that starts bargaining with you on a random Tuesday morning. It's the voice that wakes up with you late and says, well, you don't really have anything else to do today. So what's the harm in just scrolling or playing a few games? It's the voice that tells you it's fine to skip breakfast or push your meals back and mess up your timing throughout the day because it's a day off and you can just catch up and lock back in tomorrow. In your head, you aren't trying to ruin your life, you're just taking a little break. And I'm not saying that a little break is a bad thing. I am a huge rest guy, okay? But you tell yourself you've been working hard and that you deserve to just relax for the summer. But your brain completely lies to you about how fast your discipline actually breaks down. Because you think you're just slacking off for a couple days, maybe a week or two, but because there's no school or strict schedule forcing you to get out of bed, those days start bleeding together. And one bad afternoon turns into a bad week turns into a bad month, and before you even realize what happened, a quick summer break has turned into 3 solid months of doing absolutely nothing. When you finally look up, you realize the routine you spent building the whole year is completely gone. Your sleep schedule is ruined, you've lost progress, and you're right back at square one. And the worst part about it is the guilt. You start looking at the calendar, realizing how fast the summer is slipping away. And you feel this constant weight because you know you're wasting your potential. But instead of fixing it, that realization makes you feel so uncomfortable that you just turn your computer back on or open up your phone again to drown it out. You get stuck in this terrible loop where you're too stressed to actually enjoy your time, but you're too tired and unmotivated to actually get up and fix your life. You see, the biggest mistake you can make right now is waiting for some magical spark of motivation to hit you out of nowhere. We've been conditioned by self-improvement content to think that fixing your life requires this massive dramatic shift. We think we need to announce a 30-day monk mode, cut out every single piece of comfort, lock ourselves in a dark room, and completely restrict our entire existence. But honestly, that hyper-restrictive grind set is just kinda silly. It asks way too much of you when you're already tired. Trying to force yourself into a flawless, perfect routine overnight is just a trap. You're asking yourself to burn out. And when you inevitably fail to meet those crazy standards, you're just gonna end up right back where you started. There is no sudden snapback. You don't just wake up tomorrow and magically become a robot who does everything perfectly. The real playbook is way simpler and it's completely like zero friction. You fix a slip the exact same way you started it, gradually. You just stop worrying about fixing your entire life at once and you pick up one single piece of your routine. Just one. To be completely transparent with you, I slipped today. Today has not been a great day for me. Usually I like to wake up at 6 a.m., make my breakfast by 7, and immediately come to my desk to script and record these videos. But I didn't do any of that. I woke up late, I turned on my computer, and I just started playing video games for hours. I didn't make my food until 11 a.m., and my entire meal timing and gym schedule is the one that is thrown off. But I didn't say, well, today is ruined, I guess I'll try again Monday. Instead, I just sat down at 1:30, opened my computer, and started working on this exact video. This right here is how you climb back up. You don't wait for no perfect tomorrow, you just accept that you are currently at the bottom of the hole, and you execute one basic task right now. If your meal timing is messed up, you don't skip eating, you just go to your next meal. If you missed your early morning workout, you don't skip the gym entirely, you just go later in the afternoon. You win this summer by refusing to participate in the collective rot around you. While everyone else is complaining about being bored or making excuses for why they aren't making progress, you just show up and do the basic inputs. It doesn't have to look pretty and it doesn't have to be perfect. You just have to pick up one piece of the routine today and let the momentum do the rest. At the end of the day, you get exactly what you give in this life. If you spend your free time waiting around for things to get easy, you're going to stay stuck. But if you can learn how to just do one small thing when you're completely unmotivated, the gap between you and everyone else will take care of itself. If you feel like this slow decay has been happening to you for longer than a few weeks, and you want to understand the actual reasons why this could be happening to you, I did make a video on why you could be slipping. Thank you. We have built this massive cultural lie that the moment we finally find a relationship, our anxiety is going to vanish, our motivation is going to spike, and our entire body is suddenly going to make sense. We sit in our rooms, staring at screens, feeling stuck, bored, and completely disconnected, and we tell ourselves that the missing piece to the puzzle is another person. But the truth is much colder than that. If you are miserable on your own, you are going to be miserable with someone else. Look at what actually happens when you walk up to a girl or even think about making eye contact across a room. Your heart rate instantly spikes, your palms get sweaty, your brain freezes up, and a simple 2-minute interaction suddenly feels like you're standing in front of a firing squad. Most guys assume that happens because they lack confidence or they haven't practiced enough alpha eye contact from some guru on TikTok. That is some complete bullshit. You aren't nervous because you lack a game. You're nervous because you're treating a random human being like an exit strategy for your own boring life. Think about what's actually running through your head in that moment. When you see an attractive girl, you don't see a person who might have a cool personality, bad music taste, or a weird dog. No, in your head, she becomes a lottery ticket. You look at her through this desperate lens of, if she likes me, I'm finally validated. If she talks to me, I don't have to feel lonely in my room tonight. If this works out, my real life finally starts. You are using this woman as an escape room for your personal happiness. And when you load that much weight into a simple, hello, of course you're gonna start freezing up. You've placed the burden of your entire self-worth onto a stranger who doesn't even know your middle name. If the conversation goes slightly awkward or she isn't interested, it doesn't just feel like a minor interaction. It feels like your entire personal rescue mission just collapsed. And when you look at it like this, everything you do just kind of comes off as desperate now. And deep down, you know it. But also, look at the advice most guys turn to when they want to fix this. You open TikTok or YouTube, and you find some self-proclaimed guru selling you body language hacks. They tell you to lower your voice, hold eye contact for 3 seconds before blinking, or memorize specific opening lines. They try to treat human interaction like a video game where you just need to input the right cheat code to trigger a positive response. So you try it, and you walk up to someone. You recite your memorized script from your head, and it feels, totally fake. You stutter through it, and you walk away feeling 10 times than you did ever before. All that guru advice falls flat because you cannot fake genuine composure when your hidden motive is to get a stranger to validate your existence. Girls aren't stupid, unfortunately. They instantly feel when a guy is performing. They can tell when you're running a conversation like a job interview you desperately need to pass. The moment you put a girl on a pedestal, you automatically place yourself in the dirt underneath her. You turn her into this elevated, flawless creature who holds all the power in the room, while you sit there begging for a crumb of approval just so you can feel good about your week. Think about how ridiculous that actually is. She is literally just a human being. She wakes up with bad breath. She overthinks dumb things she said 3 years ago. She gets stressed about stupid stuff. She spends half her day scrolling on her phone in sweatpants. She isn't a prize, and she isn't a trophy for your personal scoreboard. When you strip away that illusion and start seeing people for who they actually are, the pressure dies off instantly. I really don't understand at all why people make talking to girls sound like it's an impossible skill that people are born with. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not pretending I'm perfect. There are definitely girls I've talked to where I end up saying something weird or I get in my own head. And sometimes I walk away thinking, why the fuck did I say that? Everyone does that. That's normal. There's a huge difference though between getting a little nervous because someone is attractive and being so anxious that you won't even let yourself walk over there in the first place. Those aren't the same thing. One is just being a human. The other one usually has a lot more going on under the surface. Because here's what I actually think is happening. When your entire week revolves around whether this one interaction goes well, you've already made the conversation way bigger than it ever needed to be. You've attached your happiness to the outcome before anything has even happened. If she likes you, it's going to be the best week ever. If she doesn't, now you're questioning everything about yourself. That's exhausting. Imagine if somebody walked up to you carrying all of that pressure without saying a word. You'd definitely feel that. People pick up on desperation way more than you think they do. Not because they're secretly reading your mind, but because the way you act changes. You stop listening because you're trying to think of the perfect response. You stop being yourself because you're trying to become the version of yourself that you think she'll like. You start analyzing every little thing. Did she smile because she likes me? Is that a fake laugh? Should I text now? Should I wait? Dude. Do you see how exhausting that sounds? Meanwhile, she's just trying to get through her Tuesday. That's why I think so much dating advice actually misses the point. Everyone wants to give you tricks. Stand like this, text like this, wait exactly 3 hours, don't double text, smile this much, look away for exactly 2 seconds. Like, actually, come on. If you need a flowchart to have a normal conversation with somebody, something else is wrong. Your problem isn't your texting strategy. Your problem is that you have convinced yourself that this person has the power to decide whether you're enough. Nobody should have that much control over your life. Not somebody you've known for 6 months, definitely not someone you've known for 6 minutes. And honestly, this doesn't even apply just to dating. People do this with everything. I'll finally be happy when I get into college. I'll finally be happy when I get my first car. I'll finally be happy when I have more money. I'll finally be happy when I move. There's always another thing waiting around the corner that's supposedly going to fix everything. Then you get there, and after a few weeks, it just becomes normal. Because the problem was never the thing you were chasing. It was the expectation that it was supposed to fix something inside you. Relationships are no different. A good relationship can absolutely make your life better. It can make you happier. It can push you to grow. But it should never become your life. That's way too much weight to put on another person. And honestly, it's not fair to them. Nobody wants to feel responsible for whether someone else wakes up happy every morning. The funny part is, once you stop needing people so badly, you usually become way easier to talk to. Because now there's nothing to lose. You're just curious. You just want to know who they are. Maybe they're funny. Maybe they're awkward too. Maybe you click. Maybe you don't. Either way, your life keeps moving. Wow, that was bad. Either way, your life keeps moving. And I know that sounds almost too simple. People hear that and immediately think, okay, but how do I actually stop caring so much? You don't wake up one morning and magically stop caring. You build a life that doesn't leave you desperate for someone else to fill every empty space. You find hobbies you actually enjoy. You spend time with your friends. You go to the gym because you enjoy getting stronger, not because you're hoping somebody notices. You chase goals that matter to you. You become comfortable spending a Friday night by yourself every once in a while without feeling like your life is over. Little by little, your confidence stops coming from other people's reactions and it starts coming from your own life. And when that happens, conversations start feeling like conversations again instead of auditions. That's why I wanted to make this video. Because I think way too many guys are trying to become better at talking to girls when what they actually need is to stop believing that a girl is going to save them. Those are two completely different problems. If you fix the second one, the first one usually gets a whole lot easier. And I just thought that was something a lot more people needed to hear. Thank you.